Good morning. It's wonderful to be here with you. And my cat, Panda, she'd like to be here this morning too, wouldn't you? Okay. Put a hashtag down below and tell me where you're from. It's been wonderful meeting all of you online and talking to you and sharing with you. It's an incredible experience these days that we don't even have to go out our door to travel the world and be with people. We can't have that whole physical experience, the whole soul sensation where all our senses are alight, but we certainly can have heart to heart, and it's just wonderful. I feel very, very blessed to live in the times that we do. Okay, and also I want you to put a hashtag in today and tell me how you're feeling. What's in your heart and what are you feeling? And have you even had time to sit and think about it? Or is life too busy? So it really is important how you feel, okay? My hashtag, how I'm feeling today, is I'm going from one extreme to the other. I woke up with joy. I spent a couple of hours studying my social media, well, learning. It's not study per se, learning. And then had a couple of things happen that just really triggered me and ticked me off, and I was just like, I can't be like this because it's not who I am. And when I was at gym, I was just pushing and pushing and pushing the breathing. And one of the key things I've learned over the years is to say I am willing. So when we know that I am are the two most powerful words we can breathe, say, self-talk to ourselves, and we add willing onto it, so I am willing. So we can add anything to it and just keep repeating it and keep breathing in and out slowly. So I am willing to let go of this anger, because I was pretty cranky this morning. Pretty cranky. But I also know that anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is not the first emotion. And then, so what we have to do, and even as codependents, we have to be prepared to go down into our soul and ask ourselves the question, what is it that's in my heart and soul that I don't want to feel? So anger is the easy thing. What I really need to feel, whatever pain's been triggered, that's what I need to feel. So I want to talk to you this morning about why is it so hard for us to let go of a narcissist. Okay, now I just want to put up, hi Jennifer, wonderful to have you with us. Okay, so, here it is. Okay, now this is a list that you can use anytime, so feel free to press pause on the replay. And I'm still new to all of this, so I'm getting used to the camera and which way you've got to go, because it's all back to front. So, right, here we go. Okay, so why can't I let go? Or why can't I believe what I'm seeing? So we know from Monday's session what's happening for them at a soul level, okay? And if you haven't watched Mondays yet on what's happening for a narcissist at a soul level, I'll put the link down below later on. But their bitterness, okay, and they're in complete denial, okay, so while they're in denial of how they're feeling, then they're in denial for everything that's happening around them. So just think of the times that you say, but you said this, or you did this, or whatever, and they can stare you straight in the face and say, but no, I didn't, okay, because they're right in denial of who they are, who I am, okay, and that's okay where they're at. But that's not our responsibility. But what happens is when you stay in a relationship, and that happens repeatedly and repeatedly, and even more repeatedly, I mean, the emphasis really is on the repetition that goes on of their behaviour. It begins to wound us even more than we have been throughout life. And the reason why it begins to wound us more is, I even have my paper cutouts today for your soul. My daughter came over, God bless her, and I haven't stuck them together yet, but here, okay, so this way, so we've got our body and soul, okay. Now, to come down into our soul, we go through our heart, and we've got our spirit. Okay. Now, this is just a very easy explanation of something that's complex, but I find that it really helps. So everything that we take on board comes from our 5 senses. This is funny. Doing things in reverse. Comes from our 5 senses. Okay, so it comes from our 5 senses into our physical, goes straight down into our heart and soul, and down into spirit. Okay. Now, we also have our Holy Spirit right here. So that's the most pure part of us. Okay. Now, what happens is, for us as codependent, is we begin to shut off. So the Holy Spirit's still there, but we begin to shut off our spirit. We begin to shut off the very life force within us because it's so wounding and it doesn't align with who we know we are, and it doesn't align with who we know or what is happening for us in this experience. Okay? So it's very confusing for us. Because on one hand, we know who we are and we know the reality of what's happened. But then we've got somebody that we love unconditionally saying, but no, it didn't happen like that. Okay? So because we kept seeking our love outside of ourselves, so go back to our diagram. So pure love comes all the way from down here. Okay? And what happens is, when we've been so wounded as a codependent up in soul level, we begin to look outside of ourselves for love. And instead of being able to love ourselves, so you remember, I don't know about you, but for years, there's been the catch cry, you've just got to love yourself. And it never sits right with us because we love everybody else. But when we go in and when we start using our breath and our senses to go in, we begin to understand and peel away the layers. And we begin to understand that there's this deep pool of love inside of us that we were aware of, but we didn't want to go to because life outside of ourselves kept telling us that we've got it wrong. That might be a bit harsh, but it's just what happens over life. You know, we can't change that, but what we can do is change our experience today. We haven't wanted to touch our soul wound, and we don't want to feel the truth that our image of love doesn't conquer all. We want to keep believing that the purity of love will see us through this season of hardship. Okay? Because we do go into relationships, even though we've seen that there are problems, we do go in believing that if we work together, we can conquer whatever we come up against. And unfortunately, the person that we're with doesn't believe the same thing. Okay? You'll find that within you, you're somebody who doesn't give up. And I don't mean somebody who doesn't give up like a dog with a bone and you never let go. I mean, you're somebody who doesn't give up because you believe in the sanctity of marriage, in having a good relationship, and you can't believe, it really is impossible to believe that even though you're with this person, it's impossible to believe that they don't want the same thing and that they don't want to be in that space of love. Okay? And that's why it becomes hard for us to let go, because we question ourselves all the time. But then we create more soul wounds because we're not believing in ourselves and what we're seeing. Okay? So when their actions are speaking the same pattern day in and day out, then you've got to be the one, as I did, okay? I had to be the one that chose, right, their actions are repeatedly telling me that they're not changing and they're not willing to work towards a place of joy, peace and understanding. So then I have to take other actions. And look, those actions will break your heart open, but at the end of the day, they're worth it. That's another story for another day. Now, if we don't address our soul wounds, okay, we will continually attract other people who are wounded, okay? Whether we like it or not, it happens. Whether we think we've got it under control, it happens until we get down into the core and deal with our wounds, okay? And it's not an overnight process. And the thing is, if you find somebody else who's working on their wounds as well, you actually can have a really healthy relationship because you're both being honest. You're able to be honest. And I think even as a codependent, we always have, how can you best describe that? We always have this willingness to be honest. And because we do self-reflect, when a narcissist says things to us, we tend to take it on board going, is that right or wrong? Is it right or wrong? Because we're self-reflecting as well, okay? And now you see what I mean? It's not cut and dry. It's all interwoven. And we can only do one thing at a time. And being codependent, we actually dance with our wounds. So we know they're there, but come in and touch them lightly in the hope that love outside of us will heal them. But it's the pure love inside of us that heals the wounds permanently. So you're not going back in over the same wound. The pure love heals the wounds, okay? Hey Sarah, lovely to see you this morning. Now, one of the things that I really came to own in myself is that I was hoping that I would be rescued, okay? I had a really highly dysfunctional, toxic family background, and I can laugh now because the wounds are healed, and God love them, bless them all, truly. Being in this space and having the healing means that I can love them and I don't have to take on board what's happening anymore. Now, the princess syndrome, I actually looked up what princess syndrome was because I just started calling it princess syndrome from the viewpoint that when I was growing up, no internet, things like that, we had books. I'm an avid book reader, and it reminded me, the feeling that I was hoping to be rescued reminded me of reading Disney princess stories. Now, I love Disney, so that's not the issue. But the girl was always rescued and by a man. And I think that's why all of a sudden I realised, well, that's just not the truth. When I recognise that feeling within myself, I'm waiting for you to rescue me, and it's just not happening, okay? It takes a lot of courage to admit that's how we're feeling, to be honest. And I've got to be honest with you too. When you're doing soul work, it takes courage. It's all doable. But it takes courage. It takes courage to face what we took on and the perceptions that we took on as well. I don't want to overload you this morning. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me because I'd rather know what you need to know about than just keep talking. If there's anything you'd like to ask, you're more than welcome to. If you sit there and you feel like there's no hope, that's not the truth, okay? That's not the truth, and I'm living proof that's not the truth. There is hope, and there is a lot of joy to be found in life as we conquer each wound as well. What the wounds do for us, or do to us, if you want to put it like that, is they stop us from seeing how life can really be. They only help us to see things that keep us safe. So whatever happened in our life, so for me, my childhood was very traumatic. I think the cats, yeah, want some attention. So what happened is my brain gets wired to keep me safe. So it always kept triggering anxiety. And when we get triggered with anxiety, we want to shut down and down and down and down. And in the end, it was so debilitating that I had to start addressing it. And what I had to do was start facing my fears. Okay, so over the years, what I've progressively done is, even though I felt like I was going to die each time I had to step out and do something different, I began to face the fears one by one. And look, the codependence is just one aspect, but the anxiety is when all of our wounds have come together and our brain just says, you're not looking after yourself, and you've got to look after yourself. You've got to take care of yourself. And our brain is wired to safety. Its primary thing that triggers is safety. So I began to look at how I could keep my life and how I could be safe without shutting down anymore. And one of the things that I did right back in the beginning was I began to get on Facebook. This is when Facebook was basically the only social media around at the time, or that I knew of. So we're probably talking about 12 years ago. And I began to just get on here and go in closed groups and secret groups for abused women and help them out from all the knowledge that I'd gained over the years. And in that way, I was able to help somebody, but it taught my brain that I could still be safe with people and interact. So over the years, I've built up more and more and more of the ability to let my brain know that I'm safe. So before I come on here in the morning, I have to slow my breathing down. You know, the deep breathing that we talked about yesterday, 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out, connecting down into spirit, connecting to my soul, being conscious of being in my heart space, not my head space. And look, we don't want to keep working on the head all the time because what we focus on gets magnified. So we want to work on the condition of our heart. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have any subjects in particular that you'd like me to focus on as well, I'm more than happy to do that. And thank you, girls, for joining me today. It's wonderful to see you. And I will see you all tomorrow at the same time. Okay, God bless. Bye.